Hey y'all, what's happening? I know it's been a minute or two since I made an update, but I figured I'd tell you guys what's been going on here in the barn. Some of you have been fussing at me for getting an update, so all right, let's do it. So I think last time we talked, I had just gotten some fuel rails from Sullivan. So those are still hanging in there, but I've made a few additions, as we can see. So let's talk about what's going on in the engine bay. And I got, let's see, I'll try to make two quick videos here so that we can, two or three. I got a couple of things going on, but I'll try to separate that out here just a little bit. So first off, got something plugged in here. What's going on? These are your favorite Bosch 220 pound injectors. So that's 220 pounds of fuel per cylinder. That's a lot. But I think that's what we're going to need on E85 to make 1,000 plus horsepower. So I got these from a friend of mine. They're kind of different than the ones you buy from Carter Motorsports or eBay that you see. They're a different injector style, the plug style. So a lot of them are pretty inexpensive, and they come with, I'm going to mess this up. You know the difference between the EV1 and the EV6 injectors, but some of them have adapters that come with them, or you can buy them separately. But these have the right injector adapters for the Holley harness. So if anyone's interested in that, just let me know and I can go into more detail. But without having to buy adapters for the harness, I had to buy different hat adapters, they call them, just fuel injector hats, right? So there they are. They're just kind of, they lengthen the injector and they sit on top of the injector. Some of them are made to sit on bottom or at the bottom of the injector, but these don't mess with the spray pattern. So yeah, if anyone's interested, we'll go into that in more detail. But you can see all these fun wires and these fun PTFE lines ran. I've made my own fuel hoses and lines, I guess you call them, but tried to, yeah, not quite. I've been mocking a lot of stuff up and moving things around, but this should be about equal length on each side. Right, pretty close. They go back to this fuel pressure regulator. All right, so I got those. I think I talked about before where the coils are going to mount. But in the engine bay, I have kind of laid out my first mock-up of the Holley main harness here. Say it's the main harness. It's the main harness plus the ignition harness, which you can see there, and the fuel injector harness. So there's three harnesses that come to make that complete. And this is just my first layout, mock-up, if you will. I'll give you a tip. Is don't just install this and say I'm done, right? Because this thing, sometimes you need to lengthen a harness. So what I would suggest for everybody to do is figure out where you're going to mount things first. So for example, the oil pressure transducer. So I ordered some sensors off of eBay. And we'll go into that later, but ordered some pressure transducers, 100 psi pressure transducers for the fuel pressure and the oil pressure. But the oil pressure is going to go here, and that doesn't quite meet up with where my harness is going to go. So I'm going to extend the Holley harness that's here. So we'll get into that in a later video, but because the sensors aren't here, but I'll make a video on my experience with that. So anyway, but basically, my suggestion is to lay this out for the first time, see what everything looks like, and then decide where you're going to mount everything, and then make your final decision on the harness. Because we can always change the harness, right? You might not want to change where you mount sensors. So, yeah, got my alternator mocked up there, and I'll show you why. That's just totally just sitting there on two stock Ford bolts, so we can figure out what that's going to look like. But Yeah. Let's go to the back of the car and talk about power. And then I've got another little special video for you guys. I treated myself and bought something, but yeah, let's talk about it. All right. See y'all in a second.